Good day, everyone. In this session, we're going to discuss the two versions of the gross domestic product, or the GDP. We have the nominal GDP and the real GDP. So let's proceed. The real GDP versus the nominal GDP. Actually, inflation, which refers to the increase in the level of the prices of goods and services, can distort economic variables like the GDP. And we know that GDP is an important indicator that measures our economy's performance. So that is why we have two versions of GDP. One is corrected for inflation and the other is not. So here we have the nominal GDP. So this is the GDP that values output using current prices. So since we are using the current prices, so it is not corrected for inflation. On the other hand, the real GDP values output using the prices of a base year. When we say base year, this is the price of the year that we're going to serve as basis when computing the value of our output. So here, the real GDP is corrected for inflation because we use the prices of the base year instead of the current prices. So let's have here an example. We have two goods, pizza and latte, and we have years from 2015 to 2017. So here, let's compute the nominal GDP in each year. So the formula for the nominal GDP is simply, the formula for the nominal GDP or the NGDP is simply the summation of the current prices multiplied by the quantity of products that are produced currently. Because again, GDP considers goods that are currently produced. So let's have here an example. So in 2015, the nominal GDP in each year, so you just simply multiply the price of the pizza and its quantity. So we have here 100 times 400, we have 40,000 plus here the product of the price of latte and the quantity for latte for 2015. So we have here 20,000. So 40,000 plus 20,000, we have 60,000. So the 60,000 here is our nominal GDP for 2015. Now for 2016, so we have here, we simply multiply the price of pizza in 2016 with the quantity of pizza in 2016. So we have here 110 times 500 plus the quantity of 250 pesos times 110. So we have here 82,500. Now for 2017, so the quantity of pizza here, we have 600 multiplied by its price, which is 120, plus 300 times 120. So we have here 108,000. So you just simply use this formula of the nominal GDP so that we can get the value of the nominal GDP in each year. Now, if we're going to compute the growth rate. So when we say growth rate, is actually the percentage growth, considering the nominal GDP or the GDP of the current year minus the GDP of the previous year over the GDP of the previous year times 100. So we have here, again, the NGDP of the current year minus the NGDP of the previous year divided by the NGDP of the previous year times 100. So we have here 37.5%. So we have 82,500. That's the current GDP, nominal GDP for 2016, minus the 2015 nominal GDP, 60,000. Okay, then divide by 60,000 here times 100. So using your calculator, you can compute the value, which is 37.5%. Another, now if we're going to compute the growth rate in 2017, so the same concept, you just simply use this formula. Of course, we have here 108,000 as the current in GDP in year 2017 minus the last year in GDP in 2016, which is 82,500, divided by 82,500 times 100. So we have here 30.9%. So that's how you compute the growth rate. So now let's proceed on the other example, which is related to the real GDP. So we're done computing with the nominal GDP. So now let's proceed with the real GDP. So on this given, we have still the same given, but here we are going to use 2015 as our base year. So the basis for our prices for pizza and latte is in 2015. So take note that when you compute real GDP, so you have to multiply the price of the base year to the quantity of the current year. So let's have here, for example, so using the 2015 as the base year, so in computing the real GDP for 2015, so we get the summation of the product of the price of the base year for pizza times the quantity of the pizza for that year, and the price of the base year for latte multiplied with the quantity of latte for that year. So we have here the summation here as part of the formula. So here in 2015, again, we have 100 times 40, so that is 40,000. Then plus 200 times 100, so we have here 20,000. So adding the two, so we have here 60,000. So it's the same with the nominal GDP in 2015. Why? Because we use 2015 as the base year. So if we're going to use that year as our basis for computing the real GDP, so the real GDP for that year and the nominal GDP for that year is actually equal. On the other hand, so when we compute the real GDP for 2016 and the real GDP for 2016, so notice that we use the price of 100, which is the price of the base year, instead of 110, which is the current price of pizza for that year. Same with latte, we use 200, no, which is the price of 2015, our base year, instead of using the current price in 2016. Now, if we're going to solve this one, 100 times 500, so we have, I think, 50,000 plus 200 times, this should be 200 times 110. So we have here, I think that's 22,000. So 50,000 plus 22,000. So we have here 72,000. So this is now the real GDP for the 2016. It's different. Now it's different. The value is different regarding the nominal GDP in 2016, given that we have the same given. It's because we are multiplying the quantity of each good with their prices, considering the base year. Now, for 2017, the same method, we still multiply the current quantity of pizza for 2017, which is 600, times the price of the base year, which is 100. So we have here 100 times 600, we have 60,000 plus 200 times 120, we have 24,000. So if we're going to compute the growth rate, so the growth rate between 2015 and 2016 is only 20%. Unlike with the nominal GDP, it's actually 37.5%. So here, it's only 20%. And for 2016 to 2017, it's only 16.7%. So the same formula in getting the growth rate. So it's actually the real GDP of the current year minus the real GDP of last year divided by the real GDP last year. So times 100. Like here, for example, so in here, the growth rate from 2015 to 2016, so we have here 72,000 minus 60,000 over 60,000 times 100. So using your calculator there, you can get the amount of 20%. Same here from 2016 to 2017 when we compute the growth rate. So we have here 84,000 minus 72,000 divided by 72,000 times 100. So the value here is 16.7%. So this is how we compute the real GDP and its growth rate. So again, the real GDP, it's more on the base year. So if you notice, the prices here that we multiplied on each respective quantity per year is actually the same. Like for pizza, we multiply all the quantities for each year by 100. And for latte, we multiply the quantity for each year, the quantities for each year by 200. So this is actually the price of the base year. So that's more on the real GDP. Okay. So now let's move on with the comparison here. So again, the nominal GDP is measured using the current prices, while the real GDP is measured using the constant prices or the price of the base year. So if you notice, since we use 2015 as our base year, the end GDP or the nominal GDP and the real GDP is actually equal. The values here are equal because again, 2015 is our basis. However, in 2016 and 2017, it yield different values. Okay? So if you notice the growth rate in nominal GDP is actually overestimated. It's actually higher than the growth rate in real GDP. It's because in the nominal GDP, it's not yet corrected with inflation. Because again, the nominal GDP reflects both current prices and the quantities. While in real GDP, the growth rate is not that too high, unlike in the nominal GDP, because we use a base year. We use the price of the base year. So here, the change in real GDP is now the amount that GDP would change if prices were constant. So when we say constant, like they have the same prices across years. And we base the prices based on the base year. Given the difference between nominal GDP and the real GDP, the nominal GDP is not corrected for inflation because, again, we use current prices. While in real GDP, it's corrected for inflation because we use constant prices. Okay? So that ends my discussion about the nominal and the real GDP. So once again, a pleasant day to everyone.